into Crystal Ball College Football. I'm your host, Grayson Grunhafer. We already started the week with Tennessee, my team of the week, but there was another team that I think deserves a lot of credit for their performance this week, and it's Tcu Horned Frogs. They were able to knock off Oklahoma State 43-40 in double overtime. One heck of a game. Two teams definitely in contention for the Big 12 title. Both teams have college football playoff aspirations as well still at this point in the season. And TCU just keeps winning. I mean, they're 6-0 now, 3-0 in conference play. And Sonny Dykes has this thing rolling. And I don't know many people that thought this was going to happen. I know some people thought they'd be a good bet just because of where they were kind of positioned in the Big 12. I think they were projected to finish 6th or 7th as far as odds go. So a pretty good bet. But if you made that bet, you got to be feeling really good about TCU's chances to potentially make it to Arlington for a Big 12 championship, especially after this game. So I guess the most important thing in my eyes to start with is this massive comeback. In the Big 12, in order to win the conference, you got to be able to find ways to win at home. And that's what TCU did. They found a way. I mean, it wasn't pretty. It didn't look dominant by any means. And they started extremely slow, but they just kept grinding. And they stuck to their game plan, which I think is so important for this team and so important for any team, really. But they put a lot of trust in Max Duggan. They put trust in their run game with Kendre Miller. They kept throwing the ball to Quentin Johnston, which is a great thing to do. Johnston finished with 180 yards and a touchdown. Miller on the ground had 104 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. And Duggan, as sturdy as ever, 286 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 touchdown on the ground along with 57 yards, no interceptions. So extremely efficient, just took care of the football, kept moving the team down the field, and trusted that eventually the defense was going to get stops and eventually they were going to have opportunities to create some explosive plays, which they absolutely did. So great start here. I think for TCU, the defense is still a concern for me. They're giving up 400 yards per game, which is 90th in the country. They're 70th in scoring defense. They're giving up 26.5 per game. It's concerning, right? Like, you're not going to win every game giving up yardage like that and giving up numbers like that. But when your offense is moving the way it is, you can outscore a lot of people. And they've been able to do that so far. Another game in which they were able to do that. And now you're sitting here and going, okay, so they get this huge win. What's next for TCU? Well, what's next is Kansas State is traveling to Fort Worth, and TCU's a 3.5-point favorite with a 64.5 over-under, and I'm sitting here going, man, this seems like a perfect spot to take Kansas State. Kansas State was on bye this week, and TCU just had another really tough competitive game. TCU's the favorite at home. Don't like this situation. I think Kansas State's going to win that one. Even if they don't win it, I think they're going to cover it, but should be a very entertaining game nonetheless, as the Big 12 just continues to be very funky. But at this very moment, TCU is the favorite to win the Big 12, and that's just kind of where we're at right now in the season. Now, on the flip side, Oklahoma State. Let's talk about the team that lost this game. So before the game, it was really weird. Spencer Sanders, they announced that he was banged up, might not even play, which was just shocking to me that even happened because you hadn't heard about it throughout the week. You only heard about it on Saturday morning. And so he ends up playing in this game, and they start off really good. They were up 24-7 with 3:40 left in the second quarter. Then they were up 30-16 with 9:30 left in the fourth quarter. They were in control of this game. I mean, really, they were until the very end of the fourth quarter for the most part, and they just collapsed. And a lot of it was they weren't moving the football anymore. And so they kept having these short drives. TCU kept getting the ball back, kept getting opportunities to go score. And eventually Oklahoma State's defense finally collapsed and they finally cracked. And, some of it was on Spencer Sanders. I think the biggest part was his inaccuracy. He was only 16 of 36. That's dreadful. I mean, under 50% passing completion percentage is really bad. He also had the big interception late in the game in which he just underthrew his receiver who was open. He just underthrew him terribly, and it got picked off. So I'm wondering if maybe his injury had something to do with it. But I'm not going to make excuses for them at all. You play the games, you got to try to win them, and you are what your record says you are. And so they're 5-1 now, and they get a loss here. Now, on the flip side, they get Texas this week in Stillwater. And Oklahoma State is a 6-point underdog. The over-under 63.5 points. I'm shocked that Texas is a 6-point favorite on the road in Stillwater. Oklahoma State doesn't lose often in Stillwater, and I don't think they're going to lose this weekend. Doesn't really matter if they do or not, but they're definitely going to cover here. And they're going to, I think they're going to win this game as well. I think Oklahoma State's getting discounted in a big way after going on the road and really competing well against the team that's the favorite to win the Big 12. Very confusing to me, especially after Texas's pretty weak performance against Iowa State. Also, something to mention with Texas, just while we're at it, Quinn Ewers has played exactly 0 road games during his career in college. Texas's only true road game so far this year came against Texas Tech, in which Quinn did not play. Hudson Card did. Texas lost that game. Their other game that was neutral was against Oklahoma. Again, that's not a road environment. It's very, very different. And now he's going to have to go on the road and face a pretty good Oklahoma State team in a place that is very, very tough to play, especially if you're going there for the first time. That's going to be really difficult. I think Oklahoma State's going to win that game. So now at this moment, I felt like it was a really good time to just kind of look at the Big 12 from 1,000 feet view and kind of look at it and go, okay, so who does everyone play? Who's left on everyone's schedule, and how crazy could this get? Well, let's just start with this. UT still has Oklahoma State and Kansas State on the road. They also still have to play TCU. Oklahoma State still has Texas and at Kansas State on their schedule. TCU still has Kansas State, at Texas, and at Baylor. And Kansas State still has at TCU, Oklahoma State, Texas, at Baylor, at West Virginia, back to back to back to back. And they're past their bye. This is going to go sideways, folks. This is going to go sideways. If you have 2 losses right now, you're not out of this conference race. And the more I keep sitting back and looking at this, I think the 2 teams in the Big 12 championship are going to have at least 2 losses. I really do. I'm just sitting here going, okay, so you're telling me that they have these matchups against the top teams in the conference still left? Oh, and that's not to mention the fact that at Iowa State is no gimme for anyone. At West Virginia, no gimme for anyone. At Baylor, no gimme for anyone. Like, this is going to be a messy finish to the year. And while TCU is the favorite right now, and TCU seems to be rolling right along at 6-0, they still have some tough games left, and they still have 2 very tricky road games on their schedule. Like I said, at Texas, at Baylor. They also have to go to West Virginia as well. So a lot can still happen, and that's why it's the most entertaining league in college football. Everyone's been saying it, but I wanted to repeat it because it's so true, this conference. There's so much parity this year. And with Kansas not being the truly bad Kansas of the past, anyone can beat anyone. And the team at the very bottom of the standings, Iowa State, they're 0-4, and their 4 losses are by a combined 14 points. It's just nuts, folks. It's just nuts. So buckle in your seatbelt because it's going to get a lot more fun as the season progresses. So that's it for today. I'll have more recaps throughout the week and previews and predictions as well. But thanks for listening today to Crystal Ball College Football.